And welcome here to a special edition of the Husker Online Live Show. We are live at Zipline, just off Westo, at the grand reopening of the brand new tap room. And we got a great crowd. And we'll be able to see the crowd here tonight as we've got a crowd inside the bar as well as in the we're basically where they make the beer.
Where they
which
make
is scary.
Didn't know this place existed. It's amazing out
Just
here.
pallets of hops.
Well, they've refurbished it, and then it's been closed for several months as they've kind of repurposed it and got it ready to go. And this is the kickoff party. They thought you were so important, Steve Sipple, that you know what, you're going to kick this place off.
Is that right, Sean? They're going to have They're going to have concerts here, local bands. It looks like a great concert venue.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Rob?
Especially once they open the garage doors too. Once it gets a little nicer, it's a little bit on that teetering, chilly, warm spring. So once it's full blown summer, we're gonna have a vibe in here. I can feel it.
Okay.
And we're all enjoying I think a Zip. Are you drinking a Zip Light, Robin?
Yes, I am.
We got a Zip Light here. They've got tacos on special. We're gonna be live till about 7. So if you are in the Lincoln area and want to come out, we'll be out here, and I'm sure we'll be out here a little bit afterwards. But we've got this is our post spring game show, and we've kind of gone to a format, and I can announce that we are signed on with Zipline to do shows for the rest of the year. So we will have a preseason show again.
Let's go.
We will have a bye-week show, and we'll have a bowl game show. And we did that in New York, and that was
It was wild.
It was fun.
But we've done them all. We've at every location. So we're honored to be with Zipline, to be here tonight. And let's talk some spring football. But as we like to do with opening headlines, Nebraska did get a quarterback today. And I want to lead off with that opening headline. Trey Taylor, arguably the number one player in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago for the class of 2027, committed to Nebraska today. And so they're done. I mean, they've got Dylan Raiola. They've got TJ Lateef for 2025. They've got Dayton Raiola for 2026. And now Trey Taylor is their quarterback for 2027.
Well, you want to be stable there. I mean, that's the position where you want to be stable because it's such an all-encompassing role. I mean, it's very much a leadership role. It's very much a recruiting role. And he's very interested in that. That's why he committed this early, so he can not only go to work on 2027 kids, but 2026 kids. He seems to have a dynamic personality. But the big thing is he's 6'3", 190, and can make pretty much all the throws. Threw for 3,000 yards plus as a sophomore, 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. Good looking kid. It's a big get. And I always say, if you can walk around and say you're the best player in Chicago, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal. If you can walk around Chicago and say I'm the top-rated high school player. Alante Brown said that, and he had 3 catches at Michigan State this year.
Hopefully this works out a little bit better for him. So, Sean, we were trying to talk about this last night. Is he the youngest quarterback commit that you can remember?
Sean, help us with this, please.
It has to be because he just finished his sophomore year, and very, very few sophomores in high school are even at a level to get an offer from a place like Nebraska and places like that. And if they are, they're usually like 4- and 5-star high-level guys. And so, yeah, there's just not been that many quarterbacks in the history for Nebraska. But that's where things have gone. I think things have really sped up with recruiting, the NIL and everything else. But what's unique about Trey Taylor, his family, and I really respect this, they didn't tell him anything about the NIL offers. The family kept that internal. So Trey didn't know anything about the money. And that's the right – when you have a 15, 16-year-old kid, they don't need to be worried about the NIL part of it, because if you're the number one player, as Sipple has said, in the city of Chicago, you're going to get paid. I think it's a matter of you want to find the school that fits best. And Trey Taylor visited Nebraska 4 times in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
What jumps out to me about his profile and how early he's committed is we saw this a little bit with Dylan Raiola, and now you'll be able to continue when you have a high-profile quarterback, like a quarterback that players gravitate to, that know that position is locked up for the foreseeable future. You have something to recruit towards.
Right.
Players are going to be drawn to that when you have a guy like that. But then also you talked about his personality. He's going to be recruiting for Nebraska for the next 3 years before he even sets up foot on campus. Like, there's so much value for that to help Nebraska get a kickstart with future class recruiting when you have that position with a player of that profile in place. I just think, beyond what he does on the field, just what he's going to be able to do to help Nebraska's recruiting over the next couple classes, I think is going to be immeasurable.
And you would think Illinois is a place where Nebraska's had great history, but they really haven't. Places like St. Louis and even Chicago, they have not been very good to Nebraska. So to go in there and get a player of this caliber, it is going to open doors because he has a lot of credibility there. And that's a tough place to recruit in the Big Ten because you've got Michigan and Ohio State and Notre Dame and Iowa and all these schools, Michigan State, Wisconsin,
And Illinois.
All right within driving distance of the city. So for Nebraska to go in there and get somebody like this, they just haven't really gone into Chicago very often and got a player this highly rated.
The last player, I believe, the last scholarship player was Khalil Martin, right? 2022.
And that didn't last very long.
No, he was a defensive back, and he moved on. But that was the last one. Maybe you'd say Chief Borders, but that was a transfer portal guy. He was from that area. He's from the Chicago area. But no, there haven't.
I mean, like Corey McEwen and like
Yeah.
some of those guys were. I mean, we're going back 20 some years. I mean,
Was that Corey McEwen 20-some years?
well, he played.
Yes.
He started playing at Nebraska like in 02 or 03.
Good God.
I was in college with him. It's been 20 years.
His son made his first communion with my daughter on Saturday. So, I mean, yeah, that's how old we
Who's
are.
that
now.
big safety they had from Chicago?
Oh, Corey Cooper.
Yeah, Corey Cooper.
Yeah, don't say Campbell.
Not the strength
Not
coach.
not Corey Campbell. Corey Cooper. Not
Corey
Trey
Cooper.
Palmer.
Corey Cooper.
Corey Cooper. Steve Sipple.
He was a starting safety.
Yes, he was.
And he was the one who clued me in on Chicago. I said, when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, I said, this could be a big recruiting thing for Nebraska, right? And he said, come on, man, it's a basketball city. Chicago's a basketball city.
It is.
I had another
It
name.
largely is.
I had another name snafu earlier this week. I said Stephon Bradford,
You did.
and I heard about it.
Yeah, you
and I
did.
met Stephon Thompson, the
Right.
former Husker, now at Florida State.
We're
So,
talking about the
the
linebacker.
linebackers, but
Yeah, and he went with Stephon Bradford, the former Nebraska
I was going to
basketball
say
player.
that's a throwback.
he's a good player.
He was.
But let's get now into spring ball because we did have the Husker Games event, and we're going to keep this show pretty formatted to an offensive discussion and a defensive discussion. We'll take Abby's questions in the mailbag, and then we're going to talk Big Ten overall in the spring and kind of heading into the offseason. But the Husker Games event, I know we talked about this earlier. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good idea for what it was, but it still only yielded 10,000 people, and you just wonder if they'll go back to something more traditional or just figure out something that's going to draw people.
10,000 people is probably generous too, right? Probably more 7 to 8. I don't know if you can just surrender. Like, I think if you would have had a traditional spring game, you would have had a minimum of 30, right?
Or 40.
Yeah. So you're surrendering 30,000 people. I don't know if you can keep doing that.
No, not sustainable in this climate. And the event itself didn't do much for me. Like, it was cool that the players that played in the scrimmage got that opportunity, especially with the uncertainties about what's going to happen with roster size and all that sort of thing. There was a chance, especially when this idea first took shape, this might be their last opportunity to take the Memorial Stadium field in a Nebraska uniform and play in front of fans. So the fact that they got that chance is cool, and you can't diminish that whatsoever. But as far as like what we gained from that to carry over into what to expect from this team in the fall, there really wasn't much, because the guys that played in that thing, they're end of the bench for a reason. So like from the football standpoint of it, I agree, there was a lot left to be desired, but I think that they at least kind of had some trial and error there. I think there's some things that you can carry over, like the equipment sale that they did. That was like probably the highlight of the day, with the people that were raving about the options and stuff, and listening to Troy Dan on the radio last night. It sounds like they're going to continue to keep doing that. So I think that there's parts of what they did Saturday and over the course of that weekend that you can build upon. Now, the football product, I mean, I would be okay if they just did like a practice, just like a full open practice, maybe a little bit of scrimmaging here and there. That way, at least get to see the players that are going to be on the field in the fall, and it gives you at least a semblance of an idea of what the real team looks like that you're gearing up for the season.
On the bright side, the players seem to enjoy it.
And that's what Troy Dannon said last night.
Yeah.
That the kids really had fun, and that's important to him.
It really is, and it should be important to him. And I think if you were on hand, you tended to enjoy it. I mean, I walked out with people, and it was a little lukewarm. It was an opportunity that I usually don't have, because I usually have to stay up in the press box to write. But I left, so I actually walked out with fans, and what the response wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. It kind of depended who you talked to. Now, what about Dannon did discuss with us the possibility of bringing in another team.
Mm-hmm.
He said there's a lot of momentum toward doing that, in college football.
There's a couple things though for that to happen. The money, number one. Can you get regular ticket prices, which I think you can. You'd fill a stadium up. So these athletic directors are in search of new revenue. But then the television networks, can you get this where Big Ten Network or Fox or your television partners would want to actually air these games? I think you could. But then the coaches. But I still think if the money is there, the athletic directors are going to tell the coaches, hey, we got to do this. But the NCAA does have to approve this. It's not like they can just do
They
it.
haven't yet.
And I don't think we're anywhere near that. And then
I don't know. That's not what Dannon said.
one thing Dannon did say too was the distance. You would like it where a team could bus in and bus out, because when you take a football team on the road and put them in a hotel, you're talking several $100,000 of expenses that goes into a trip like that.
True.
And if they're trying to do this to make money, you would like it where nobody has to stay overnight.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to spend $150,000 on travel, but Nebraska wouldn't have to. Now, there are schools. If you just go slightly west, there's schools that it would be challenging to find an opponent that you could make a bus trip. Nebraska, it wouldn't be challenging. You could go to Ames, you go to Columbia, go to Kansas, you could go to Lawrence, you could go to Manhattan. There's all kinds of places Nebraska could go.
The problem I see with that, though, like getting actually established football programs, so these power conference type of that level of opponent, is they're sacrificing their spring. And is Nebraska going to return that favor?
Yeah.
No. You think Nebraska's going to give up a spring game?
I don't know.
To go scrimmage in Columbia, Missouri? I don't think so. So, I mean, like, I think there's logistics like that make it a lot more complicated. Think, all right, well, let's just go play again against this person, because someone is going to sacrifice revenue that they would be making by hosting their own. Now, that's going to vary from school to school about what that revenue is, but, you have to account for that.
I want to hear more why you do it. And that is, if Missouri came here and they opened it up and they're actually going to play, there'd be 70,000 people.
Oh, no doubt.
With
It'd be a sellout.
So maybe that's the draw. But again, like, does Nebraska have to return that favor, or are they just planning on hosting a game every spring?
And if you go that route, you'd be bringing in FCS schools.
Correct.
And then you'd just be paying them to come down, and you kind of know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I mean, it'd be like a Harlem Globetrotters game. They're going to win, and it's a lesser divisional. But on the case they would lose a game like that, that'd also be.
I'm just glad we're talking about it, because it's on the table. It'll be on the table.
All right, before we get into offensive headlines, we got a couple of super chats. The super chats are open. Sipple's Mando Stick chimes in.
Very odd name.
Old fashioned for sip on me. Shout out Peter File. Is Peter File in the house somewhere?
Oh, God.
They got me. Hey, and by the way, I do think the highlight
It's
of
the first show of this off season.
I got nailed.
Sean,
It's been a rough week. It's been a rough week. When you know that the highlight of the spring game they got the most views was my drop punt.
Sean,
Hey,
come on.
man.
He got nailed.
I got nailed. I got nailed. And
Sips Mando Stick
ships
for the win.
Jacob, and I know you're going to say the
Don't even
last
say
name.
last
I think I'm getting trapped on this one too. Has Nebraska ever gotten two top 5 QBs within 4 years before? Are we suddenly going to be a QB factory? Well,
that's a great question.
the transfer portal always makes you stay on your toes. I don't know if you can just, be comfortable, because guys can come and go pretty quickly, as we saw a year ago with Daniel Kaelin leaving. Heinrich Harburg is now not a quarterback anymore. And so they've kind of turned that room over pretty quickly.
Yeah, Dylan's here, though.
And Dylan's got 2 more years for sure. And then you've got Dayton, you've got Lateef, and now you've got Trey Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, maintaining that QB room is going to be the challenge, especially when year to year you have no idea who's even going to be on your team. So that, they're doing a good job of bringing in the talent. And
for sure.
That's the first and probably oftentimes more challenging step. But now the next part of that is keeping guys here. And then, Dylan's got to play well. Like, for Nebraska to continue to be a draw for quarterbacks, he's got to have success and take his game to the level where he wants to take it. A quarterback of that caliber is supposed to take it. So as long as that plays out the way that everybody expects, then I think Nebraska's in every opportunity, because they're going to have tangible evidence of, look what happens when an elite quarterback comes to play for us in Matt Rule. You go to the pros and you're a first-round draft pick.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is a big day. When you get a quarterback, it's a big day. And I'm glad he asked that question. 2 top 5 quarterbacks is no small accomplishment. You beat out A&M and Illinois and LSU. I mean, I'm not going to just play that down too much. So that's a big deal today.
You know what they called it today? Trey Day.
Is that what they called it?
That was your big Lincoln Journal Star headline if you were
Trey
still
Day.
at the paper.
Okay.
Trey Day. All right. Well, let's shift it over, guys. Offensive discussion, offensive storylines out of the spring, and we've already touched a little bit on Dylan Raiola. and the spring he had. And, one of the things to me about this spring for Dylan was this was his football team now, where I think a year ago he couldn't say that. He was still trying to earn the job, get respect from his teammates and whatnot, where this past spring, you knew it was Dylan's team, and you just got the sense that he is now the leader or one of the key leaders of this football team.
Yeah, and I mean, he's earned it. It's not easy to come in. God, think about it, guys. I mean, he was 18 years old? Mm-hmm. And now we talk about like it's his offense. Pretty soon we're gonna be saying it's like his program. This is so much for a kid. And he handles that part really well. I think the fact he got himself in great physical condition really helps the leadership part. The guys know what he did, and he did work really hard to get in good condition. I just think physically he looked elite this spring. When you watched him, there's all those questions about his weight and all that. But if you watch the quarterbacks, and if you guys were just coming in from Albuquerque and didn't know anything about Nebraska football, you would look out at the quarterbacks and it'd take you about 7 seconds to say, okay, that number 15's their number one guy. It's very apparent the way he throws the ball, the way he conducts himself, his physical condition. It's clear who's number one as soon as you start watching.
I think there's a lot to be said for that part of it too, where like obviously he's got all the accolades and all that sort of thing. So it would have been weird for him to take that on last year as a true freshman. But even going into this year, the fact that he played a full season, I think he still needed to earn the right to be that guy. Like
sure.
you can hand a guy the crown and say, go be a leader. And sometimes they don't do it. But we heard stories, Da'Keel Shorts talking about he'd come to the weight room at like 5 o'clock in the morning and there's Dylan Raiola doing a boxing workout. Like that sets a tone to everybody. When your highest, most visible star is putting in that kind of work when no one is watching and no one is expecting anything from him, that I think raises the entire boat. When a guy like that is leading the charge, everybody else follows.
Well, let's move it to running back because this week there was some news in that front. Nebraska did make an attempt to get Shamar Brown from North Dakota State. He chose Miami yesterday over Nebraska, and Cal at one point was heavily involved, and they backed out of it because of the length of how long it was taking. But I looked at that as somewhat of a blow because I did think Shamar Brown would give them a legitimate number two that actually has real game experience, and granted at the FCS level, but they won the national championship. And North Dakota State, in my opinion, is still probably a top 40 FBS level program, even though they play at the FCS level. But he'll go to Miami over Nebraska, which now leads that running back room a little bit in question. I mean, you got Emmett Johnson, and you know what he can do, but he's never been asked to be a 18 to 20 back carry per game guy. So can Quentin Ives be that? Well, Quentin Ives has 6 career carries last year for 7 yards.
And a touchdown.
In the Pinstripe Bowl. So there's just not a lot of body of work there to know what you're going to get. And that to me, among some other things, is probably one of my bigger concerns with this team right now.
The outside conversation is striking to me. The outside conversation about the running back room is much different than the inside conversation. Matt Rule has quadrupled down on Quentin Ives. I mean, he's
for like a year and a half.
Yeah, they feel the coaching staff, and most notably Matt Rule and Barthos, spoken highly of Ives. They are clearly confident, and I think internally they're confident. Mekhi Nelson. So it's striking to me how much different the conversations are out in the fan base with the media, and then when you listen to them, it's much different.
It's all because of just the unknown, the uncertainty about that group. Even your starting, number one back, Emmett Johnson, he didn't really become that lead dog until about 4 games left in the year when Dana Holgorsen took over. And you look at the volume of his production in that offense when Dana took over, it was staggering. Like he was getting 20 plus touches a game over that final stretch. So you look at what he did at the back end of last year, the physical gains he's made over the course of this offseason. I mean, he looks noticeably bigger, especially in his upper body. Like, I think he's positioned himself to take on the lion's share of that room. But then the question is, who's up after him? But like you said, when you listen to Matt Rule, when you listen to other players, you listen to people that have watched practice, there's a lot of optimism around Quentin Ives and Mekhi Nelson. The issue is that none of them have done it. Outside of a handful of spot carries in garbage time, we really just haven't seen them do it. Even the spring, with everything being locked down and no spring game. No one's been able to watch these guys play to at least an extent to feel overly confident.
Do you guys ever think about that part where we always say they're an unknown? Ives is an unknown. Makai Nelson's an unknown. They're not an unknown to the coaches. In some ways, this becomes a trust matter where you kind of got to trust the coaches. They see it every day. They watch endless film of the guys. They're an unknown to us. They're not an unknown to the coaches. And they see them every single day. So I guess I kind of trust them in that regard. I've seen coaches be wrong enough that you always wonder a little bit, but they're not an unknown in the building, and they must feel pretty good. And now the thing that, Sean, everybody wonders is, why did they go hard after Shamar Brown?
I think they made what they felt like was a fair market offer. And Matt Rule has been very adamant that, hey, we're not going to just get silly and go over market to get a player because our ego wants us to win. And I think NIL in the earlier years, there was a lot of that going on. But now when you have the rev share element and more of a cap management that you're going to have to follow internally, before collectives externally were running the show. Now there is a heavy internal element with the revenue sharing where Pat Stewart and Nebraska has to have a plan and a budget. And
there's a budget.
And they say, look, we've got this much money, but we're not going to give Shamar Brown that much money.
Right.
And this is our limit for him. And they did the same thing with Dante Dowdell. I think they could have probably kept him, but they weren't really interested in doing a bidding war with the guy. So it is dangerous. If you're a player that goes in for a bidding war to get like a better NIL offer, I mean, there is a lot of risk involved because your coach might say, you know what, you might just take that offer if they're offering you that much money.
Right. Well, and there's a possibility, and these are all tricky discussions, that Nebraska doesn't have the money to pay him what he wanted. There's that possibility.
Well, you think about how much they've invested, number one, in Dylan Raiola.
Just go through the list.
I mean, I'm just going to go through players that I think make over $1 million on this football team.
Okay, do it.
Dylan Raiola, Elijah Pritchett,
yeah, for sure.
Rocco Spindler,
no doubt.
Williams Winery,
no doubt.
I would say McCullough's close.
Yeah,
and I would say quite. Dane Key is probably up there.
Yeah,
like they are heavily invested in a lot of players that they went and already got.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that they could just. If Shamar Brown gave them a number, they could just say, okay, we'll hit it.
And it's $200,000 or $300,000 over what they had thought they were going to have to pay.
They wouldn't do it.
At some point, you got to have a value ceiling on a guy. And if you start going over that, then you're getting yourself into trouble. Because what if that investment doesn't work out? Then what's the ripple effect on the rest of your team and where that money could have spent otherwise? So, I mean, you got to be smart with your money. Like, I know a lot of teams just go out there and just throw out dollar figures that are just outrageous and totally skew the entire market for everybody else. But for Nebraska, you got to be sensible. For guys that are that caliber of player that you have zero doubt about, sure, yeah, go ahead, throw some money at them. But when it comes to a player that you're talking about maybe being your number 2 running back, you don't need to break the bank for somebody like that, despite what they could do to help your depth and the obviously in-state personal connections.
Well, we're out here live at the Zipline Taproom. Thanks again to Zipline, proud sponsor. They've been with us for the last year. I believe it's our 4th live show now we've done at Zipline, and we got 4 more now coming over the next year that we've agreed to do with these guys. If you've not been out here to the West O Tap Room, it just opened. This is a part of their grand reopening. It's right off West O and 77. If you're going to your kid's sporting event at the Kinetic Sports Center, it's right on the way. You'll see it there. Probably a good pit stop. I've already spent a lot of time at the Kinetic Sports Center, and this will be a you know what, I'm going to hang out here for an hour.
There you go.
Type of place. But we appreciate the crowd tonight. We've got a few more super chats.
Easy now, Sean.
Jacob, who I think tried to get me, goes, it's German, Sean.
That was his real name.
You're safe. It rhymes with Liddell. The other Dave, no tricks here. I heard that we value running back. We valued the running back at $300K. Have you heard the same? Seems low if you're going after a star in the portal. And I don't know. I mean,
that sounds like a number. That's a reasonable number.
And
it's a reasonable guess based on what you've heard.
Supposedly, Miami and Nebraska at one point were pretty competitive together. Yeah. And, I think Cal's offer was out of – I don't think Brown wanted to go to Cal. I mean, Cal's got a lot going on there.
But when someone throws a figure that's that much more than anybody else, you got to listen, right? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I think the best quote of the spring was when Matt Rule said, "Desperate teams set the market." And he repeated it. It's like, let me repeat that. Desperate teams set the market. I would classify Cal as a desperate team. They've lost like their entire team, like their whole roster this offseason.
It'd be like me telling Sip, hey, you got a job offer that's going to double your salary, but it's in New Hampshire. And you've got to cover Division II football and, stuff that you're probably not too going to be near what you're used to doing.
Yeah.
And then you got to decide, like, do I really want to go out there where it's not what I'm used to? North Dakota State was a big time. North Dakota State arguably probably has a better fan base and support level than Cal does right now.
Yeah, Cal's a mess. I mean, if you don't follow Cal, they were 7-6 last year. That's what Nebraska was. So it wasn't a total mess. But Ron Rivera is their general manager. There's boosters that are saying Ron Rivera should run the program. And of course, Justin Wilcox is the head coach. That doesn't necessarily line up. Ron Rivera says, I should be driving the car. That's the analogy, the Sean Callahan analogy he uses. And it should be your head coach that's driving a car, right? But there's boosters that aren't aligned, so it is kind of a mess there.
All right, we've got a few more.
And it's Cal.
We've got a few more super chats in here. Kurt Peterson, does Nebraska have the personnel to have a season above 8, maybe 9 wins? I think they're as we know, the margin to be a 7-win team to a 10-win team is not much. And Nebraska's danced with that for the last few years. They've been right in these games. It's a matter of can Dylan Raiola and some of these guys get them over the edge? Can they convert those third downs? Can they get points in the red zone? Well, their specialists score points. I mean, to be a team that wins at that level, you need field goals to be considered. Everything's got to work for you. You can't have punts being blocked and things that we've seen Nebraska deal with the last couple of years.
November is critical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to do it, if you're going to win 9 or 10, you're going to have to win a couple in November. And look at the November schedule. That's when you guys have covered this a long time. The season starts getting long, and it's rough. I mean, the Big Ten's a physical conference. A lot of this is how well do you hold up physically and mentally going into USC, UCLA, Penn State, and Iowa. You're going to Happy Valley on November 22nd. It gets real at that point. So November is when it gets. That's when we're going to find out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as we always say, the beginning of the year, if you start hot, that can change the narrative for everything. I mean, we've seen teams
they were 5-1 this year to start,
but you got to finish.
Yeah, that's true. But look at the way the schedule's set up. I mean, that Cincinnati game in Arrowhead, and then Akron, UConn. Then you get Michigan at home, Michigan State at home. Like, it's all set up for them to get off to a really good start. And when you have momentum and confidence and all that stuff going into October, November, suddenly those matchups, we're looking at them at May 1st and then looking at them October 1st, look a whole lot different, depending on what the team has proven they are capable of doing. But from a personnel standpoint and the schedule, the way that it sets up, yes, I think they can get to 8 wins.
And you look at the road trips.
Why can't they get to 8 wins?
The road trips, Maryland's not daunting.
No.
UCLA shouldn't be a daunting road
Sean,
trip.
UCLA beat Nebraska last year.
Well, I'm saying the environment, the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah. No,
I'm talking about when you go in where the home field's a huge advantage.
Yeah, it's not.
Minnesota, I think depending on the time of the kickoff, it varies. If you get Minnesota at night on Labor Day weekend, like Nebraska did a couple years ago, that place is rocking.
Oh, God, yes.
But we've been to Minneapolis for an 11 a.m. game in October, and it's empty.
So, yeah.
So you don't really know what you'll get with a Minnesota crowd. But I don't look at that as a daunting road trip. Now, Penn State, as we know, is a beast.
Oh, yeah.
That's going
be
to
a hornet's nest.
That's the toughest game on the schedule. And you just pray to God that's not an NBC night game, which I don't think they would do that to Nebraska because Nebraska has to play Iowa on a short week the next week.
You wouldn't think. A lot of times Nebraska's the sacrificial lamb of the Big Ten, so you never know.
So we'll see where that goes. A couple more super chats. Scridizzle, thank you, Sean, Sip, and Robin for all the best Husker content. Love the new 3 videos a week. See you guys in Kansas City. Yeah, we went to 3 shows a week starting in January. The demand was there, and we do 3 during the football season. So we've done 3 shows a week. I think 1 week we did 2, but that's our goal. We like doing 3, and we think there's enough demand and enough content. That's the key.
Yeah. So we'll roll one out tomorrow.
So we will do a show tomorrow. We were going to do one yesterday, but we kind of, I don't know if you guys follow our industry, but we worked for Rivals.com at one time. We left Rivals.com to come to On3 with Shannon Terry. And Shannon Terry started Rivals.com many years ago. That's who hired me when I was 23 years old. But he purchased back Rivals. And so they're merging into On3 with us. So we had a lot of meetings about that. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a win for the fans. There's a lot of big things I've heard that are coming. So I'm excited about that. But that's why we didn't go yesterday, on top of we've got a show today too. But Ruler comes in.
Ruler.
Let's hear your May 1 record predictions. Robin, go first.
I mean,
make you go first.
Yeah, I anticipate the Vegas line, if not already, being around what, 7.5 again. So
I can't see 8.5. 8.5 is like you're borderline a playoff team.
Yeah, I'll go 8-4 because I think that they're going to get off to a hot start, and I think they're going to finally win some of these games, like at Minnesota, at UCLA, that they've been losing, and that'll be the difference, the tipping point between being a team that doesn't make a bowl game and then a team that is 8 wins, potentially knocking on the door for 9.
Yeah, I'm just taking out the 3 wood here and trying to hit it down the middle. 8. I think it'd be borderline irresponsible to go too much further than that.
It's a trap question though, because when you say 8-4, you get the fans like, would that be satisfying for Rule 3, Year 3? Like you get like people like get mad when you say 8-4 and say kind of with little gusto. But I mean, 8-4 in the Big Ten's a good record.
Yeah, and it's very possible. 10 would be really difficult with the.
You're in the playoffs.
Yeah, 10 wins. You're in the college football playoffs. Right. So being at 8, like with the potential of getting a 9, that's a really good spot to be in.
You could be in the playoffs at 9-3.
You got to go win, and to get to 9, you got to have to win close games. Mm-hmm. That's what it's so much of it is that you have to turn the tide on the close game.
And I don't know, this schedule doesn't have a lot of. I mean, if you were trying to make Nebraska be a dark horse playoff team, at least on paper today, there's not, other than the Penn State game and maybe the Michigan game, there's not a lot of games that when you look at it today, like, boy, the committee would be really impressed with those wins. No, you're right. But we said that a year ago, and then look how good Illinois ended up being. Look how good Indiana was. So you don't really know what the Big Ten's going to bring, and that's the scary thing.
Mm-hmm. It is scary. But the schedule is really manageable in a lot of ways. If you look at it this way, Penn State obviously is the toughest game. The next one's Michigan, and then what is it? I mean, it's probably Iowa at the end, but that's again, it's Iowa. Iowa's projected to win what, 6 games, 7 games? You should be able to win that game at home.
Yeah, Iowa loses the running back. They brought Gronkowski from South Dakota State as their quarterback. He's hurt though, so you just don't know. And could this be Kirk Ferentz's last year? They've been saying that for a number of years now. Like, how many more years does Ferentz have left? And what is the succession plan in Iowa City?
There was an interesting question on our chat. Like, if you could pick Nebraska to beat Michigan or to beat Iowa, which one would you want? Like, if you could only win one of those. And yeah, I mean, like the way that Iowa game ended last year, like it took it to a new level. Like
took what to a new level?
The rivalry.
Yeah.
Like it is a full-blown hatred rivalry now, at least on their end. I'm sure Nebraska fans feel the same, but like it was testy.
It just felt dirty
from the
like,
jump.
Iowa was running around with their shirts off like they won the Super Bowl. And like, you guys played like crap. Like Nebraska dropped a punt, 1 punt. And I dropped a punt this week too, by the way. Yeah. And
you did. Ain't as easy as it looks.
It's not easy. But like that, I mean, and they missed 1 tackle, but they played like a dominant game out there. That it just stings to this day that they blew that game.
Look at the Hawkeyes with that trophy show.
And let's go Hawks, and you can just hear it in that place, and it's just angry. Like people,
it's angry.
They hate us.
And just the made up narratives, like Rule walk through our sideline. He was walking around the perimeter of the field like he does every game. Same things Deion Sanders does. Nobody cares about that.
I didn't tell you guys this, but when I was walking down on the field, we got kicked off the field. Remember, I don't know why they wouldn't let us down on the sidelines this year at the end of the Iowa game, at Iowa. And I'm walking up. We got escorted off by some guy. Some Iowa fan recognized me, DMs me, and just says, "Get the F off our field. F you, Sean." Like, I mean, like it's intense.
Yeah. Wow. At least you didn't stand on the Cyhawk. You had police.
That was after the game.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter, we were trying to get down there because we knew it was going to go. We've thought every Iowa game is going to go to overtime, but then every Iowa kicker decides to make the kick of their life to not send the game to overtime.
Was it a sports writer?
Might have been. I don't know.
Rivals. Rivals. Right.
Well, I keep my DMs open. So like anybody could hit me, and
wow,
the guy just lit me up as we got kicked off the field.
Yeah, don't look at your DMs.
So I think
Do what I do. Don't look at it.
that's where I add a degree of difficulty to the Iowa game, where maybe they don't have the prestige of a Michigan, but all that comes with that game now, especially after last year, like there's added intensity to that one.
All right. Scott Roars wants to chime in on the records. He says 9 wins, no question. What are the advantages to the rugby style punt? I would say it allows you to decide what direction you want to roll it out. Let your coverages kind of go with the rollout and also play the wins. And as we know, the wins are a factor in the Big Ten Conference.
And so we're going to get a rugby style punter. They probably know who it is right now. Would you think? There was a 1 and 1A that Rule referred to. And that's got to happen pretty soon, right?
Yeah, they just haven't announced. He'll sign is what will happen, and they'll announce it. It might leak out, but it is really hard to like cover. I mean, there's like one company in Australia that kind of feeds these punters to the U.S. It's called Pro Kick Australia, and more than likely they're the ones that are involved with Eckler, because Eckler has a pretty good relationship with those guys from I think his previous candidates he's brought with him from over there.
And I'm going to say this is a massive change for Nebraska. Right.
They tried to go to it with Daniel Cherney.
Didn't really stick.
And he got hurt.
Yeah.
And so they
Broke his leg.
Never really were able to do rugby style punting.
Another advantage too is it doesn't allow the return team to get set because you have no idea where the ball's going to go. I mean, you can line drive it and prevent a turn altogether. Like you could do all sorts of, there's more options for the punt team to dictate where the ball goes, how you cover it, and how the return team has to react to you as opposed to the other way around.
We haven't covered Nebraska football with regular rugby punting.
Was Tory Taylor an Aussie, the great Iowa punter?
Good question.
He's with the Bears now.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
He could boom
He's
it.
the greatest player in Iowa history.
I don't think he was. He could boom it.
Because those guys from Australia, Aussie rules football. You have to be an athlete. He is an Aussie.
Abby confirms he is.
Yeah, I thought.
Is he?
Yes.
But did they do rugby stuff?
Well, he could do it all.
Okay.
So he was. He could do it if they had to. He can do. And this is the guy Eckler's going to bring. He can do everything.
Okay.
So we got one more super chat here. Robin is spot on.
Told you.
I need to sorts a fortune on RBTL, also on Barthel. I'm having a hard time making out what people are typing here, but
Do you need my readers, Sean?
No. Okay. So
see if you can make word of this, Robin.
Robin is spot on. I need to sorts a fortune on an RB2, also on Barthel, and the Kaohsiung staff knows what we have in our RB room, we assume, and the stats.
So we've confirmed this guy is drinking the dang IPA right now.
Cheers, brother.
He's drinking the 8%. He's on number 3 of the 8% right there.
Hey, I like the beginning of his question. I'll give him that.
Which is,
Robin was right.
oh,
But as we transition, we also are brought to you on the show by Huel Energy Drinks. I didn't have time on the run to have breakfast and had a Huel in the car this morning. Thanks to Huel, our sponsor here of the Husker, one of our sponsors here of the HuskerOnline Show. If you've never tried it, it's a protein packed, vitamin packed. It's not necessarily a meal replacement, but it can be. And it gives you natural energy. I know Sipple has had to rely on that more than once, but we've got a great deal with Huel. We're going to give you 15% off. Use the promo code Husker at checkout, and you'll get a free gift as well at Huel.com. Again, that's promo code Husker at 15% off, and you'll get a free gift as well from Huel.com. And thank you again. We're live here at the Zipline Taproom just off West O and Highway 77. It's the grand reopening this weekend. We're in the garage portion of it. There's also a bar area behind us. Great crowd all over the facility here tonight, joining us here for Husker Online Live as we wrap up spring football. But let's talk defense because I feel like that was the part of this team they really wanted to keep a lid on. With John Butler coming in, a lot of new personnel being placed in this defense. I just got the sense they didn't want anybody to know anything about what was going on, to the point where John Butler couldn't even give you obvious answers. Like Sierra Wright is a starting corner.
he did at one point say, and I thought it was critical, he did sort of let down his guard, said we're a good blitzing team and we're a good man coverage team. So that, and he said we're developing up front. There was 3 things he stated one day, and I thought, wow, okay, well, they're a good blitzing team. That's good to know. Makes sense with their personnel. I don't know if he's probably talking about McCullough, probably talking about Vincent Shavers. Those strike me as potentially very good blitzers. There's probably there's probably a couple other guys.
Singleton,
Oh,
those
100.
DBs.
Yeah. Deshaun Singleton is a blitzer for sure. Then, if you're a good man coverage team, that helps you in a variety of ways. So that was illuminating to me.
I'm still nervous about the D line.
Of course you are.
I know that they had a lot of positive things to say about the young guys coming up, but I just can't get over how big of a void they have to fill up front with Ty Robinson, 4th-round draft pick, probably should have been higher. Nash Hutmaker. Those two guys, and then you lose Jamari Butler, and just go down the line of how many snaps, how much production, how much experience and leadership they lose from that group. I don't know if this is something that can be answered over the course of 15 spring practices. This is going to be an off-season long process of getting those guys ready to play. And, even the first month of the season, sure, they'll be okay against UConn, but what happens when you go to State College and you got to go up against Penn State and Iowa and those so that to me, I know there's been a lot of talk about the backup running back. The D-line still for me is number one on my list of questions, concerns at this point of the offseason. Now, that's not to say that they can't answer all those and be a perfectly fine, if not good unit. But right now, I just worry about that group just because of how far they had to go with what they lost.
I'm all in on the linebacker group.
Okay.
I'm going to say that right now. I think the linebacker group with Marquise Watson-Trent, Vincent Shavers, Dasan McCullough. I think that's a really good group. Javin Wright coming back, Willis McGahee, and some of these guys are the edge jack players as well. But Gage Stenger, Jacob Bauer, I just think that group could be a real upgrade from what it was a year ago.
This is where now, Robin, if you want to chime in, those guys, but they need Nebraska. Those guys need Nebraska to play well up front. Because we've seen it at Nebraska where they had some good linebackers, but linemen blockers were on them way too fast.
And we use the example of 07 with Corey McEwen and Bo Rude, 2 all Big 12 level linebackers when they lost Adam Carricker and Stu Bradley and Jay Moore.
No doubt.
they looked way different, didn't it?
They weren't making any all-conference teams.
No, looked way different the next year. So that's what you mean. Now, you always have to leave open the possibility that they're going to be better up front. I mean, that's possible.
I'm not ruling that out whatsoever.
Right.
I'm just saying, just give that. There's no position group that was hit more with offseason attrition than the defensive line, and that is far from an answered question. And they've got a long way to go to at least alleviate some of those concerns.
Really hard to replace, obviously, Ty. I mean, the Eagles were going to take Ty in the 3rd round.
I can't believe he fell that far.
Well, a couple trades pushed them from 96 to 111 overall. But he was just the point is he was a 3rd round pick. So that's tough to replace. But I mean, they have some guys that are really athletic up front. Van Poppel's really athletic. Help me out.
Keona Davis.
Keona Davis is super athletic for a big man. You hope Winery is. I mean, I think Winery was good this spring. Good, not great, but he's got August to kind of settle in and continue to climb. Elijah Judy's got to be good.
Len Hart.
Those guys got to be really good. They got to be really good.
Yeah, I think that group, and I think the secondary. We were asked this week, who do you think your starting 5 is? And I think we're all on the same page here. Your 2 safeties are Malcolm Hartstug, Marquise Buford. Your rover, which plays closer to the line of scrimmage, will be Deshaun Singleton, and then your 2 corners, Sierra Wright, and then it sounds like Andrew Marshall, the Idaho transfer, is the odds-on favorite to be the other starter.
Who else would it be?
Amari Sanders.
Amari Sanders could be there. Donovan Jones. There's a few different players and I think they're going to play a lot of guys there. I also heard that Rex Guthrie had a very good spring. That's another name.
Okay. They got options.
A sleeper. But that's a very, very crowded room of players.
Keep in mind, they didn't rotate much at all in the secondary last year. Those DBs played a lot.
And that's the norm most of the time.
They rotated a bunch on the D line, but they did not rotate at all in the back end.
Mike, I'm not going to go there. Good try, Mike.
He's back.
Mike is back.
Mike, come on.
Super disappointed that we lost Shamar Brown. He would have done some serious damage. Too bad it ended up being pay for play.
Well, we don't know that for sure, right?
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
We don't know that for sure, right?
No.
It was a money decision.
We don't.
I mean, we talked to Shamar briefly yesterday. He didn't really – I mean, when we talked to him, it was pretty clear Miami was where he was going. He just didn't want to admit it to us.
If anything, though, this whole process, back to Shamar Brown, really puts into emphasis how much the agents drive this.
Yes.
Because nothing about this makes sense for him to go to Cal or Miami over Nebraska. Local guy, Creighton Prep. He's got teammates. Nebraska's going to make a fair offer to him. He had a great chance to play a lot this year, but he's going elsewhere.
People see, I think people, they wonder what we're talking about sometimes. I think we can safely say in a public setting that Cal was going to offer more than $500,000, right?
Significant.
You know that.
Yeah.
You heard it from a great source. Yeah. I mean, so now that's a tough decision for a kid. Like, I mean, if he left $250,000 on the table, that's quite a bit now.
Well, your agent
don't want you to leave it on the
if
table.
your agent's getting 15%, which that's what these guys are taking from a lot of these kids.
That's an F-150.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So it's a strange world we're talking about now. You know,
the worst part is the agents. You just hear so many stories about these guys just completely disrupting recruitments. Where like this would just been a natural move 5 years ago. You got a local kid, shined at the FCS levels, wanted to come back home. He'd play a prominent role, be at least the number 2 running back, and have a great chance to succeed in his home state. But then the money gets involved, and you got an agent that's like, you know what, Miami, look what they're offering, right? Because the agent wants to get paid. And so there's conflicting interests in these recruitment now that go beyond what the player or the parents or the family want, because the agent's getting involved, because the agent's got to get paid. And if schools don't play ball with the agent, a lot of times they're going to have a disadvantage in getting the player.
All right. Before we bring in Abby Barmore and do the mailbag, we've got a couple more super chats I want to get to. There are more questions. This is from Kurt. There are questions on how the D-line will perform and hold up. But how does this defensive staff stack up against last year's? I think it is an upgrade, and I'm always hesitant to say that because they haven't coached a game yet.
Right. I'm not going to do that.
I mean,
I've learned my lesson on that.
You can't say they're an upgrade until we see them,
right,
win some games and put things together. Sipple's Mando stick comes back in, just like the punt. Sean gets the second. Good job, Mo. Yeah, I got
Mo.
I dropped the first
Mo
punt.
from The Simpsons.
Oh,
so he dropped the first punt by getting the Peter, but he caught the second punt by catching the mic.
I shouldn't even have tried to catch that first punt. I got aggressive, not realizing that I was going to be clipped for 1 million people to watch.
See, Damon played it smart. He was out there and he didn't even try for ones that would have been like a higher degree of difficulty, because he's like, no, I'm not going to make a meme of myself.
And he kind of had the smoothness of an ex-player. And
Damon.
I look like a guy that's never fielded a punt before. But all right, let's welcome into the program Abby Barmore. Welcome to Zipline, Abby.
There she is.
Let's welcome Abby.
Yeah, welcome, Abby. She puts up with a lot.
Guys, well, Abby Barmore has a full mailbag. Abby, where are you going to start us out? Oh, hold on. Your mic is not up. Sorry about that, Abby. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there
sorry
it
about
is.
that, guys.
Who were the most impactful offensive and defensive transfers this offseason?
Well, it's too early to say because they haven't played a lot of games, but I do think
start up front
on left tackle Elijah Pritchett
and Rocco
just is within their value. I mean, you can say Dane Key too. I think there's a lot of guys on offense you can go, but defensively, I'm going to go with Marquise Watson Trent.
There you go. I'm going to go Rocco on offense, just because for one, he addressed a need on the interior line, but he brings championship pedigree to that offensive line. Like, he brings a standard that this offensive line just hasn't had enough of. And I think he fits right in with the culture that Donovan Raiola has been trying to build. I mean, you saw it, like when he gets thrown up to the podium, that's telling to me. When Nebraska handpicks a guy, especially a newcomer, to come up and talk at the post-practice podium, that means that they have some clout and they are trusted to be a voice of the team. So you pair that with all the praise that he got, from his teammates and coaches alike. I think that was probably one of, along with Pritchett, the most significant upgrade, just because offensive line means everything, especially in the Big Ten Conference.
My impression on that, the Spindler-Pritchett dynamic, was Rocco came in and it clicked immediately. I mean, Rocco he's going to be the starting right guard.
Yeah.
Rocco is already sort of a leader. With Pritchett, it took a little longer, in part because he's quieter. But I think he settled in. Now, he was pushed. I'm going to tell you something now. Pritchett was pushed by Seagram. And Pritchett had to, so he kind of had to fend off. I was told that Seagram was pushing pretty hard.
Look at the offers he's getting in the portal right now.
Right.
Kentucky just offered him.
Yeah.
Hello. Really? Kentucky, Rutgers, who else?
and then Washington State.
Washington State.
From Oakland Craig to those offers. I mean, he was a true walk-on and has only played like 30 snaps in his career.
Grant Seagram. So that's offense.
Give me defense.
Defense, I'm going with what Sean says. Marquise Watson Trent. If he's starting inside linebacker, which I think that's what he'll be, the Rob Dvorak described him already as a tackling machine. He must be making plays.
He could lead this team in tackles.
Yeah.
I would say he's the favorite to lead this team right now in tackles.
Jason McCullough is going to be in that conversation.
You
for
hope
me.
he is.
Like, if he can be that X factor pass rusher, that's something they haven't had since Randy Gregory. So, like, that could change everything for the defense. And then talk about Andrew Marshall being potentially a day one starter at corner. Pretty high significance there.
All right, what do you got next, Abby?
Who made the biggest move this spring?
Ooh.
Oh, that's easy. Justin Evans. I mean, we weren't talking about Justin Evans as a starting center going into the spring. We were saying he's going to be a left guard or right guard, left guard. He's going to start at guard, but we weren't talking about him as a center at all.
I'll throw another random one out there. Gage Stenger has gone from not playing at all to being a part of the leadership council of this team, and I think he'll have a role.
What's his role? What's he playing?
Specials, probably.
Okay.
I mean, I would think specials, and who knows on the defense where he factors in, but to have him be identified by Dylan Raiola as one of the 7 key leaders of this team, I thought that was pretty telling.
I think it's also notable when you got 2 true freshman wide receivers that enroll early, and their offensive coordinator says they are going to play in the fall. They are going to have roles in our rotation. They will see the field. So Cortez Mills, Isaiah Mosey, talk about getting off to a fast start, man. They are well on their way.
All right, Abby, what do you got?
That is a great transition to
Look
my
at
next
that.
question. Thank you. Who are the Huskers' top 5 receivers this fall?
Name him, Sean. You can do it.
Well, they go by a top 6, so I'm going to say 6. Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, Janiron Bonner,
Mosey,
Isaiah Mosey, and Cortez Mills. I think those are your 6, and those were the 6 that also didn't play in the Husker games. They were able. Some of those guys might have did like the fastest man or.
Yeah, Barney he won the fastest man.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could work Mills. I think Mills is knocking on the door to be a starter. I mean,
But that's 6.
Yeah, the 6, the rotation's you know what? The rotation's pretty clear right now. It's just who's starting, and that's dependent on formation and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Next one. How do you feel the talent level between Nebraska and the top of the Big Ten have shrunk this offseason? Or has it?
Here's the deal. If you just look at the top 25s that are getting rolled out, Ohio State's leading the pack, you would think. Penn State's really close. Oregon's really close. A little drop off to Michigan. And you hope Nebraska, we'll kind of find out in September.
Yeah.
Is that Michigan game in September? Is Nebraska pretty on par now with Michigan? They weren't a couple years ago, but maybe they've closed the gap and Michigan's come back a little bit. There's still quite a gap between those top 3.
I think USC's a wild card too.
Yeah.
I think Lincoln Riley never underestimate his offense, and if he gets hot, he's hard to stop.
Yeah, what do you think of their talent?
Well,
We saw it.
They've got money, and they're going to always get players there. They've got location, and so that game in Lincoln is going to be tough. I mean, that's going to be one of the hardest games on the schedule when they come to Lincoln.
They'll always have skill. They'll always have speed. They weren't great up front on defense last year.
And is Maeva the answer? I mean, I think he's pretty good, but is he the answer?
Right.
I agree with you on the top tier. Like, I think Nebraska's got a long way to go to get to Ohio State, Oregon, and whatnot. But look, they almost beat Ohio State.
Well,
in
yeah,
Columbus. So, like,
they
that's what I'm
did.
saying. Like, you can be significantly outmatched on paper and from a recruiting perspective and all that. But that's why they play the game. And Nebraska's shown that they are capable of competing with anybody in this
But
conference.
what are we talking about, though? Here's what we're talking about. Ohio State had 14 players drafted.
Yeah.
And that's without Seth McLaughlin, the Remington Award winner. They should have 15.
One,
drafted.
and their great receiver was undraftable. Otherwise, he might have been the number.
Jeremiah Smith would have been the first receiver off the
Okay,
board.
so now when you have a team with 16 draft picks versus a team with 2, who you picking? Who you
Yeah.
picking?
So that's why I say, like, I'm reluctant to say they're close to that tier.
Right.
But that next tier you're talking about with Michigan, like I said, we're going to find out early. But Nebraska's shown, man, like they should have beat Illinois. And Illinois turned out to be a pretty good team last year. The only team they were completely outclassed by was Indiana.
I left out Illinois. Did it? I lived out of Illinois.
Illinois is a ranked team, probably.
They have 18 returning starters.
But I think I
18
don't think the gap is nearly that far from that next tier in the Big Ten than some might.
They don't play Nebraska, though. Illinois is
that's
not.
right.
Indiana's not on the schedule. Illinois is not on the schedule. So there is somewhat of a break there. There is also no Wisconsin on the schedule.
weird, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that is weird.
But you get Northwestern back on the schedule, and then obviously
Nice.
Minnesota back. Last year was the first year since Nebraska's joined the Big Ten. They have not played Minnesota or Northwestern.
Weird.
Welcome to an 18-team conference. All right, Abby, final question. What do you got?
Okay, last question. Spring is in the books. What is your favorite summer beer?
This.
What's this?
Zip Light. I do like it.
Can opener. I mean, the Zipline can opener, if you guys haven't tried, this is the brew that they come out with in the summer. And Robin's got it here on the screen.
It's
Can
delicious.
opener?
But it is refreshing.
You
It is
taking
light.
It's got like
And-
citrusy.
Yeah, that is. I literally have already purchased
Orange
2
splash.
6-packs of that at my house.
It's only 4.
Like when I'm outside grilling, I'll run 3 grills at one time. Sometimes I'll have
You
some.
got 3 grills?
I have a Traeger, a grill, and a flat top, and sometimes I have all 3 going.
You sound surprised.
I am surprised.
If anybody you know has 3 girls, it's Sean.
My wife, not a big cook, so I do most of the cooking.
All right.
I handle the cooking, but yeah, I like to try the can opener or have the can opener beers. That's my. What's your? So yours
This
Zip
one,
Light?
this is just basic. You know, I don't drink a lot of beer, so I like this beer though.
Yeah,
I-
that, oh, go
I
ahead.
saw on the screen behind us that they're going to have a juice box cider. What did you call it?
Yeah,
Hard
Hard soda.
soda.
hard soda.
When's that come out?
July
July
4th.
4th. Well,
I'm in.
Juice
Count me
box.
in.
I'm
hard
guessing that's what we're
soda.
promoting in the summer.
Yes.
Abby, that's yours.
I'm in.
Abby's like the
Yep.
official
It's not even
influencer.
out yet. She loves it.
Abby got up out of her
It's
chair.
great. I highly recommend. I haven't
Sales
tried it, but I
increased
bet
by
it is.
5%.
All right. Well, thank you, Abby, and appreciate you coming out the Zipline for us.
Of course, it was fun.
Thanks, Abby.
All right. Let's close the show, guys. Just some brief comments about the Big Ten overall, and we've already kind of hit on this, but it's a bear. I mean, you look at this league going out of the spring. There's 3 playoff teams right now already.
And that's not counting Illinois, which might be. They're ranked. I just saw the USA Today poll this afternoon. They're 21st. And again, I want to stress Illinois, 18 returning starters.
And then you have Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State.
Right.
And then
And Michigan's right there.
Michigan could be there. USC, you just never know.
Yeah. They're not, you don't see them in rankings.
But
I mean,
they-
Nebraska's ranked ahead of USC.
But there's talent in this league, and that's the challenge. I mean, as college football shifts to 2 leagues, the SEC and the Big Ten, there are no more free Saturdays.
No, not really. Penn State's an interesting team. I could see them getting a lot of number 1 votes, but you have to keep in mind what they lost. They lost Abdul Carter, the 3rd overall pick. They lost Ty Warren. So they lost 2 incredible weapons. And now they got a lot back. They got Drew Aller back. They have Katron Allen at running back and Nick Singleton at running back. They brought in the key for Penn State will be their transfer receivers. They needed help at receiver. They brought in Kyron Hudson from USC. They brought in a kid from Troy. If those guys hit, they will challenge for a national crown.
I'm intrigued about Illinois. Like, I think their over-under right now is at 7.5, which I think that's low because they won 10 games last year and they got their quarterback back. And Bielema is just a Big Ten coach, man. The guy's got it figured out for how to win in this league. So, I mean, a 9, maybe even another 10-win season is certainly on the table for them.
You know what it is? It's Bielema with a veteran offensive line.
Yeah, and
That's
that's the
scary.
reason why they are a dark horse candidate to be a college football playoff team.
Yep.
And Tyler Redwine, our good friend, the Husker drone,
Drone man.
he has dibs on the first Harley ride with Sip. And if you didn't bring your Harley, you didn't, right?
No, I did not bring
But Husker Dave brought his.
Yes,
Husker
Dave,
Dave.
can you do this? And you don't ride other guys' Harleys, so you just handle this, okay?
Well, you're Sipple. People want to ride with you.
Come on.
You could be in the middle.
Well, maybe someday we'll do that, but I don't want to do it on the back of my bike, all right? Sean, I don't want you on the back of my bike. All right?
I want you to go viral. I want memes.
Well, good luck on that.
Those haven't been hard to
We've,
come
we've
by.
had enough memes this week.
I think so.
let's tone it down on the memes. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, we want to thank everyone tonight
God, we really
for coming
do.
out.
Yes.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
guys. We'll be back again in August for another Thursday night preseason show. So probably mid-August. We haven't set a date yet, but again, thanks to Zipline. If you haven't tried their can opener beer, that's their newest beer that just came out, Zip Light. They sell it in 12 packs now. Costco carries the dear old Nebraska brews in cases. We've got the red ale up here. Lots of great beer options on tap. Check out the new tap room here, guys. It's wonderful beer.
Yeah, good job. Good job, guys, for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate Zipline and thank you to everyone for watching. We had well over 500 live viewers on the stream tonight. So signing off here for Abby Barmore, Robin Washut, Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan.